if you look at gut problems, those are the result of metabolic chaos. They're also contributing to metabolic chaos. So there's kind of this vicious cycle. If one is beset with stress, lots and lots of chronic stress. There's a cascade that happens in the body, and we call it the metabolic chaos cascade, because all these stressors, some of them hidden, some of them you'll never really sort out, but there's lots of them, whether they're mental, emotional, psycho-spiritual, physical aches and pains. Chemical stress is huge, we all know, but from the environmental field, I know how bad it is.
Yeah.
It kills. It kills. So you have all these various stressors, and your body's designed to handle some of that. But if it's not soon resolved, so I'm not talking about just getting cut off in traffic. Someone pulls in front of you, your cortisol, your adrenaline goes up, but in 10 minutes you're fine. So we're built okay for that kind of stuff. But the kind of stress we're under is so chronic and insidious, you don't even know it sometimes. And if not resolved, if your body can't resolve it right away, it will build up and build up.
Welcome back to Truehope Cast, the official podcast of Truehope Canada. I am your host, Simon Brazier. This is the show where we dive deep into the powerful connections between mind, body, and spirit, exploring the many psychological and physiological aspects of mental health to bring you motivation, knowledge, and real solutions for thriving in today's complex world. Today's episode is going to be a true eye-opener. We are tackling a topic that affects millions but is often misunderstood: metabolic chaos. What really drives it, and what if the key to resolving it lies in one of the most powerful systems in your body, your gut microbiome. Our episode is titled Unravelling Metabolic Chaos, the Gut Microbiome Solution. And to help us navigate this fascinating territory, we have an extraordinary guest joining us. Reed Davis is a double board certified holistic health practitioner and certified nutritional therapist. He's not just a clinician, he is a pioneer. As the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, Reed has trained over 4,000 practitioners across 50 countries to use functional lab testing and holistic lifestyle medicine to get to the root causes of health issues. With more than a decade as health director of the South California Wellness Center, Reed has personally guided over 10,000 clients toward optimal wellness, making him one of the most sought after experts in the field. Today, he is going to share his knowledge about how gut health holds the key to unlocking stubborn metabolic patterns, while understanding root causes is the only true sustainable path to healing. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or lost trying to solve your own health puzzle, this conversation is for you. So grab a notebook, get comfortable, and get ready to change the way you think about your body and your health. Enjoy the show. Okay, Reed, hi and welcome to Truehope Cast. How are you and what is going well?
I'm doing fantastic here. I just moved to Florida, Simon, so the move is going well. I came from sunny Southern California to rainy Florida, so it's been a challenge to deal with the weird weather. But other than that, everything's going great. We're alive and well.
That's great. You decided to move the whole width of America. Amazing.
Yeah, from one side to the other. Although I'm still on the West Coast, technically. If you're in Florida, we're on the West Coast of Florida, so
okay.
I'm still kind of a West Coaster.
That's great.
And the water here is so beautiful compared to California. I really never liked the beach there, and here I'm kind of loving it, so it's good.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine from the UK moved to Miami not so long ago, and yeah, he always sends me pictures of the ocean, and it looks just so beautiful.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So we're going to be discussing unraveling metabolic chaos, the gut microbiome solution today. But before we jump into that topic, would you mind just letting us know a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. Thanks, Simon. I really appreciate being on the podcast, and hope we can inform some folks of something useful and helpful. I've always been a kind of a do-gooder, Boy Scout type growing up, but in the '90s, I was actually saving the whole planet: air, birds, water, trees, bees, and working in the environmental conservation field. I completed a postgrad law program, and I was good in that business. I was doing very well financially with it. Um, the But it started to become, even though I was on a personal mission to clean up the environment, the owners of the company seemed to be more focused on the money,
Mm.
which was good. And then I just got kind of sick of all the hype around California fairy shrimp and vernal pools and things. I still am a conservationist, but by heart. But what happened at that time? This is 27 years ago. So I was getting tired of that, and I was taking my son into a chiropractic wellness center. He was a high school athlete then, and he got 7 varsity letters in 4 different sports. That's an award. And I got a new career because the more I listened to those alternative doctors in that clinic explain things, mostly just talking about my son and how the body works and different things. Very holistic approach, very alternative to medicine. I'd never really been to a doctor. Anyway, I said, "Hey, I'd like to work here. I could probably help you build your business or something like that." And they hired me. Uh, and immediately I went to work just trying to help people with no medical background, working with the doctors there. And I got invited by one of the doctors to attend a nutrition uh, program. And she said that I could work on the patients there in between my classes. So within a couple months, I was not only running the whole office, but I was studying anatomy and physiology and biochemistry and these things. And I started to interview the patients. And this is where it gets interesting. And then I'll end the story with, hey, I started talking to everyone coming in the door, Simon, and they were all sick and tired of being sick and tired
Mm-hmm.
and frustrated with modern medicine. That was the only other thing they could get at the time, or hocus pocus stuff.
Yeah.
So they were very unhappy people. And Southern California I is full of mountains and desert, and I'm an avid motorcyclist. And I was out riding my bike one day, and it just dawned on me how sad it was for those people, frustrating. And I decided I'm going to be the last person they need to see to get well again. And I didn't know how, and I had no medical training, but I was taking this nutrition class, which now I think was a joke, but it got me really interested. I fell in love with working with patients one on one in the clinic as a clinician, as much of a novice that I was at the time. And I started, thank God, to run laboratory work. They put me in charge. I put myself in charge since I was kind of running the place by then. And for the next 10 years, I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. Anybody willing to spend the money. These were not covered by insurance. This was just out of pocket, people investing in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they were game to do it. And I was eager to learn everything I could about a person through the lab work, saliva testing, urine, stool, blood work, of course. And I got really, really good counseling from the lab guys and from other doctors, very good mentoring. But in 10 years, you could imagine that I learned a few things. I made some of my own discoveries. And that is the foundation. That 10 years was the foundation for what I then started teaching. After 10 years, I got sort of pushed into teaching, and I liked it very much. And that was in 2008. So now we have literally thousands of students or graduates in 50 different countries. I started this teaching this course called FDN. That stands for Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, just a name I came up with at the time. And so that's what I've been doing since 2008, is teaching what it took me 10 years to learn. And I can teach anyone that wants to learn it that my methodology with the labs and all the protocols, the very specialized stuff, highly individualized lifestyle protocols. And I can teach you what took me 10 years to learn in about 10 months. Our course, or less. It's self-paced, but that's about right. And so that's what I do. I teach that course. I have a staff of 50 people that help me, including all the mentoring and all the things you get.
Well, that's really cool. And just like the beginning of that story, it sounds like when you went into that office, that chiropractic alternative office with your son, as he was that high school athlete, and it sounded like you very much, very early connected with the individuals in there, the energy in the room, the holistic nature in which they were conversing with you, and then you
Yeah,
just began to saturate yourself with all of the knowledge on all of the um, things that they're able to, I guess, help change your mind when it came to I don't know, it came to the idea of medicine and healing yourself and what you can and can't do. Because I don't know, how old were you at the time when you went into that office? I guess that you were a grown
I was,
man.
yeah, I'd say 46.
Yeah.
I'm 72 now, so it was a while ago. I
Yeah.
was in my late 40s,
Well,
and
that's
yeah, I was
amazing. Like 46
yeah,
to have that exposure to something completely brand new, and then have the passion, motivation, vision to be able to jump into something completely new, but obviously recognizing the power of it.
thank you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
it
cool.
was. But I was, like I say, I always had a uh, desire to serve. Again, like the sort of Boy Scout. And when I was in environmental law, I was serving a big, the whole planet. But again, it wasn't my company. I started to get dissatisfied, and what another thing that happened right at that time was a good friend of mine's father, who I was close to. Um, he dropped dead suddenly, and everyone said he was perfectly healthy. He was perfectly healthy, and I'm thinking, no, he couldn't have been. You don't
Mm.
drop dead if you're perfectly healthy, and that happened right around the same time. So I'm really wondering how, if the environment's so bad, you see enough dead fish and dead birds and
Yeah.
ruined lakes and streams, you start to wonder about people. What about people, including myself? I didn't want to all of a sudden, have something sneak up on me. And so that was the other impetus, just going in that clinic. And they were taking really, like I say, my son was an exceptional athlete. We kept him all tuned up with chiropractic and everything. And I learned, I ended up with a new career. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, it's a wonderful story, and I we'll certainly get into this because functional nutrition is kind of what we're all about here at True Hope Canada. With our products are designed to help provide people the nutrients that they need in order to allow their brain and body to thrive. And I just think back over the past, well, I've only been alive for 41 years, but just throughout history in the past, like let's say 60, 70 years, how we've become a lot more disconnected with our food, disconnected with nature, disconnected with all of these things. And we kind of forget that these foundational nutritional pieces is so important. Like what we eat is so important, how we eat, where we eat. These things are vital towards our health. Yet I feel like we have lost that sense. I remember my grandmother like making every single meal, and
Yeah.
through the, let's say, advancements in technology, and then we have a lot more convenience foods. People are shopping more in the middle section of the supermarket, of the grocery store, and we are not using the skills that we may or may not have been taught by our our grandparents and our parents to get in the kitchen and work with our food to nourish our bodies and our families' bodies. And I feel like it's something that we have lost. And then you've got courses and programs like yours. We have products that come from a company like ours, which is helping people relearn, re-nourish their bodies to the point where they're able to thrive and be happy. Because we've got a lot of doctors out there, a lot of prescription drugs out there, and there's no way
Mm.
people are happier and healthier in the state that we are. So maybe we all need to take a few steps back, and we need to relearn things. Perhaps like courses like yours, this Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, this 10-month program. I mean, how healthier would the population be if everyone had to take that as a mandatory class in high school, for example?
Yes. Well, uh, it's definitely college level, I'll say that. But the because of the anatomy, the physiology, there's biochemistry involved, and it's not too heady. I teach it really well. I mean, I make it simple. Is what I had to do back in the office is
Yeah.
I was explaining it to the patients. You have to speak, and so I learned how to deliver the information. Anyway, when it went to teach, it really wasn't much of a stretch to put it all on slides and narrate. Again, it's a self-paced thing. But
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. My grandparents are long gone, and there's hardly anyone like that around anymore. You can't find people like uh, on both sides. Both my grandfathers grew their own food. I grew up in Canada. My mother was actually British, and she's still living. She's 95 years old. Lives around the corner from me, and had dinner with her last night. She's 95. She's doing great. Her brain is just as sharp as ever. She remembers everything. But what I'm saying is, there's hardly anyone anywhere I've been that's like my grandparents. Grow on their own food. You go there and you eat what you eat. Like you said, your grandma makes dinner, and it's what she got out of the backyard or field.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Very, very cool. Yeah, it's a lot of these things are lost art, a lost art in regards to these foundational pieces, and you're just trying to be able to give people this education in a way that's easy to understand. It's people have got a lot going on, so it can be a challenge to relearn things for sure. But these little tweaks, I think this understanding of food and nutrition is quite innate to us as human beings, and we just need that rewire, that re-spark. And we have so many amazing guests come on the show who have similar stories to yours. They live this particular type of life, and then something happens, and usually it's out of tragedy or something, or trauma, or something happens, and people have to look to an alternative solution. They have to think differently, they feel differently, and that kind of shakes up the whole nervous system to maybe take a different path. And then they do look for an alternative practitioner to maybe speak to about their pain or their chronic issues, or they come and speak to us about trying to get off the medications they've been on forever because they don't actually feel great, and they don't feel great on these like 4 or 5 drugs that they may be on, and they're actually looking to not be on those, not be reliant on that system, and get out of that, and actually be able to take their own health into their own hands. And there's some amazing things that come with doing the work that it takes to get into that position. But if you can be pain-free, drug-free, relying on the natural world to be able to get you where you want to be, the empowerment and power that comes from that is quite remarkable, because it shines out of you, and other people pick up on it, and they're like, what are you doing? What is different? And we all need a little bit of that, I think.
Well, that's actually brilliant, and it was going back 2.5 decades. That's another thing that was remarkable about the patients coming in that clinic. There's people just like that today. There's no shortage of that mentality where they're seeking an alternative. But another thing I thought about out riding my motorcycle, and these folks back at the office, and they're very distressed, and but they also were being dependent on their physicians or whoever it was. And I thought, why are you putting your health in someone else's hands in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can, nowadays it's easy. You go online, you can look up anything, especially with AI. It's just brilliant, I think. I have my concerns, of course, but people, our clients, our customers, if you want, are those who are willing and ready to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And so you hit on a really important topic there as we discuss, how to find out what's really wrong with people. They have to want to,
Yeah.
and they might be kind of at the end of their rope. Um, Looking, searching. They've been to 8, 10 different practitioners sometimes. And that always blew my mind. I was like, well, like that's a ripoff. Have you seen and spent how much money? And but the other thing was that why are you putting your health in someone else's hands? So
Yeah.
our approach is a different way of looking at things. It's you have to take responsibility, and here's the information you need to have to understand what's going on. So we really teach them what's going on in their bodies, and then they're enlightened and are willing. Then they'll take the action and behaviors that you want them to, that
Love
they
it.
want to. Yeah.
Yeah, just one more point on the that kind of like doctor-patient relationship where the expectation is that other person is going to give you something that's going to fix you. Like it just doesn't work like that. And I think that the power dynamic in those conversations, in those relationships, is very one-sided. And until you do want to step into your own journey and take control of your own health and all of that, that won't really ever change, because we've obviously been taught from a young age that you get sick, you go to the doctor, and boom, you're going to be fine. And in many cases that can happen, I guess. But when it comes to like what most adults are dealing with chronic dis-ease, it's taken a long time for people to get there, and there's no quick fix. There's no quick fix for that. And if you're not self-motivated with a particular goal in mind or something that's really going to take you through, you're going to struggle because you're not on that journey yourself. But when it's just you across on the table from someone in a white coat telling you what to do, giving you a
Mhm.
prescription, that's not coming from a place of, let's just say, like a positive energy and yes, not coming from a place from a clear goal with an elevated emotion. It's kind of stale. It's not really something that's going to get you through those difficult times where, if you're looking to rewire 20 years of poor habits that's led you into a state of disease, it's going to take a lot more than that. It's going to take energy. It's going to take input. It's going to take effort. It's going to take community. It's going to take a massive, massive life shift for you to be able to do that. But there are practitioners like you out there. There are courses you can take. There's education you can do from the comfort from your own home, I'm sure. And there's companies like ours, there's products like ours that can help you on that journey. But I think without that elevated emotion, which is usually like, love, hope, gratitude, all these amazing things that can really fire people up, and then couple that with a clear intention, such as, I don't want to have pain when I'm 70 or 80. I want to be able to get on the floor and get up off the floor while playing with my grandkids. Like, I think that's so. I'm
Oh
41. I've
yeah.
got small kids. I think that's an incredible motivation to do the best I possibly can every single day to help benefit my health.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
it isn't even as hard as people think. They're very confused. Uh, there's so much out there that is junk, and we just don't be that junk. There's so
Right.
much stuff out there to confuse people for commercial reasons. And I would say most of it's kind of baloney. It might not be harmful, other than that you're wasting time and money.
Mm.
Um, I'm not talking about that kind of junk, harmful things. So it's pretty harmless, except for the waste of time and money. And probably, if you have a downward spiral, it's going to get worse
Yeah.
if you don't do something about it. And that was um, something else that's always struck me, is the how bad it has to get for some people before they. I think you alluded to that. They wait till a tragedy or something nasty occurs,
Mm.
and then, oh, now all of a sudden you're interested. Um, Whereas prevention would be the real way to go if you could.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that tragedy, or that traumatic event that actually like shatters the box, shatters the nervous system, is the real big thing that can help people, kind of explode and create something very positive out of a negative thing. And then that's really where people can do quite remarkable things. But I'd love to talk to you a little bit about gut health and the microbiome. So I know you've got experience working with thousands of clients. So what would you say are the most critical foundational nutritional habits for supporting a healthy gut microbiome and preventing metabolic chaos? What are some of the key pieces?
Well, first, let's kind of define metabolic chaos, because gut health is involved. Gut health is, um, if you look at gut problems, those are the result of metabolic chaos. They're also contributing to metabolic chaos. So there's kind of this vicious cycle. If one is beset with stress, lots and lots of chronic stress. There's a cascade that happens in the body, and we call it the metabolic chaos cascade, because all these stressors, some of them hidden, some of them you'll never really sort out, but there's lots of them, whether they're mental, emotional, psycho, spiritual, physical aches and pains. Chemical stress is huge, as we all know, but from the environmental um, field, I know how bad it is.
Yeah.
It kills. It kills. So you have all these various stressors, and your body's designed to handle some of that. But if it's not soon resolved, so I'm not talking about just getting cut off in traffic. Someone pulls in front of you. Your cortisol, your adrenaline goes up, but in 10 minutes you're fine. So we're built okay for that kind of stuff. Um, but the kind of stress we're under is so chronic and insidious, you don't even know it sometimes. And if not resolved, if your body can't resolve it right away, it will build up and build up, and ruins pathways. It flows downstream through all these metabolic processes. That's where the lab testing is very helpful. And it creates this chaos where there's a lot of causal factors, say multiple. I've never found one root cause in anybody for anything. There's always multiple causal factors. I don't even use the term root cause anymore, unless I'm explaining why I don't use it, because there's always multiple causal factors.
Yeah.
And we can look for the constellation of healing opportunities. That's a key phrase too. So there's metabolic chaos that is a result of constant stress, downward spiraling through all the metabolic processes. And oh, by the way, these causal factors, you can't even track some of them far enough upstream, because they're having an effect on each other.
Hmm.
So this problem affects that. Now you have not just the two problems, but the effect of the combination of those two things, these causal factors. So I hope I'm not confounding it, but that's what metabolic chaos is. It's a state that exists when there are multiple causal factors having an effect on each other, so that the symptoms downstream that eventually appear uh, can't even be tracked. So they can't be tracked, high enough up into to just eliminate that one thing.
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's the kind of people who come to us anyway. They're one diagnosis. We don't give any medical diagnosis at all. Not one, not any. But metabolic chaos is our um, uh, assessment in these cases. So it's all based on metabolic individuality that the symptoms finally appear. That's how the problem shows up. But symptoms aren't the problem. They're the result of the real problem, which we can just go that high enough upstream to be running some tests. We look at the hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system balance. That, by the way, spells hidden, HIDDEN. Hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system.
Nice.
Those areas they're the healing opportunities. Those are the where the problems really are. And so I find it very difficult sometimes to answer a question about a specific condition, like gut health, if you don't first understand that your gut is the way it is for a reason. It's both a result of that metabolic chaos, which is your hormones, your catabolic state, your immune system, most of which is in the gut. All these things start breaking down before you have a problem. And so, like, for instance, you mentioned the microbiome. Well, if it's out of balance, meaning more bad bacteria than good bacteria, there's a reason for that. Your immune system was already compromised.
Yeah.
Now it's made it worse. By the way, that also diminishes digestion. You can't digest your food as well. Now you're talking about nutrient deficiencies, especially around the amino acids and things like that. You're just not getting all of the good from the food you're eating, no matter how good it is. So I look at it from that point of view that, sure, we can measure leaky gut. There's an easy little finger stick test. You send in a few drops of blood to the lab. They tell you what your zonulin levels are, your histamine, diamine oxidase, some other things. So we measure stuff, and we can then give you the path to repair it yourself. And that's the other thing I wanted to point out, was that it's not just getting people off medication. Like, it's getting them off the thought process. Take this for that. You can give them natural stuff. I mean, and we do. There's natural products that work just as good as the drugs, but they don't have the side effects, so they're safer, and we just think they're better. But that you haven't changed the thinking enough. Oh, I'll just take some of this, and then I'll be okay. No, you need to take a look at your diet. It's critical. Rest is critical. Exercise, stress reduction, and then supplements are helpful. So that's another acronym for you: DRESS: diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. And they all have to work together. If you're going to really have a person self-treat holistically, they're going to be taking a look at all those things. And that's our secret, really.
Yeah, well, I think that just from understanding these, even just these acronyms that you're using to help educate people to kind of like go through the checklist to be able to see where within their lives, within their busy habitual time, where they can help start beginning to benefit themselves, because we're highly unconscious usually when it comes to what we're eating, where we're eating, how we're eating. I imagine when I was 23 working in London, every day I was eating my breakfast while I was, sending emails and walking to work, like I'm doing all these things. How's my digestion supposed to be engaged when my peripheral vision and my nervous system is trying to make sure I don't get hit by this double-decker red bus, So it's a big piece. And I've seen people do remarkable things just by changing how they eat. Like, they can still eat. I've got some examples of people who would always consume kind of like poor food on their lunch break, and they would have digestive issues for the next 3 to 4 hours. But then I'd actually have them, they can get the same food, but sit down with no distractions, chew your food, and be way more present, be a lot more mindful. and they immediately see the difference that it has within their
Oh, yeah.
gut, and then they can start thinking, oh, okay, like if that's having an effect, maybe I should start eating some good quality food as well to actually nourish my body. So these pieces are so vital, and I'm sure that you've obviously had so many experience with helping to educate people and guide them through this, that you can throw too much information at people, right? And it can be way too much, and they might not even come back, perhaps, considering it's just like too much. So I want to ask you, like, what's your approach in regards to say somebody who's come in, who's got chronic symptoms, they've been having a tough time for a long period of time, and like to do all the things that you've just discussed there would be so overwhelming for them. Like, where would you typically begin the process? Because I think we've got a chronic nutrient deficiency problem out there. You can just see all of the psychological issues we have within our culture, and we also have chronic disease as well. It's just like absolutely wild and out of control. And when you're talking about metabolic health and gut health, all these things are super important. But like, where would you start the most like basic person on this journey?
Yeah, the most basic thing that we do is interview that person. Number one, to see if we can help them,
Mm,
because you would never onboard, if you want to use that term, never onboard a person that you aren't really pretty darn sure you're going to be able to help them.
for sure.
So there's 8 questions we ask. The first one, to your point, is what's one or two things, usually one if we can narrow it down, about the way you look or feel that you'd like to change, that you're willing to change. What is it? Because people come in and they say, I'm tired, fatigued, I have no sex life, my muscles are weak, I'm overweight, can't sleep. So they have multiple complaints, but you want to find one thing that bothers them the most, because you need to be able to track your progress and ask them down the road, how's those migraine headaches or whatever it was,
Yeah.
so you got to narrow it down to one. Now you're going to work on everything anyway, and so, but you need them to be aware of why would you hire me? Well, it's because I asked you the right questions and you answered them intelligently, and were willing to make a commitment to the program. Before I even tell you how much, I want to know, what's your main complaint? How often does that bother you? How long has that been going on? What have you tried so far that hasn't worked, obviously?
Yeah.
And then there's some other questions around where you find out motivation and expectations. And only if they answered all of those correctly, or say reasonably, and they aren't crazy, then you would offer your services to them. So to answer your question, yeah, we want to know what's your main complaint, and then so it's a mental. We get them focused on, okay, if I could just get rid of this, I'd be happier. This
Yeah.
would change my life, and if I don't get rid of it, my life's still going to suck, or whatever it might be going on, and how committed they are.
Yeah.
Because if they're not willing to commit to a program, why would I onboard? Why would I take their money? So there's another question in there about um, you know how likely they are to complete the program. Would anything hold them back? And because why would I go further than that? If they say, oh, nothing, I'd say, well, let me give, would money hold you back? Would time hold you back? Or do you have any bad habits that would
Mhm.
prevent you from completing a program? Because we can't deal with those kind of things, then I can't onboard. I wouldn't take on that client. So it's really sort of preparing them mentally and emotionally, connecting to their reasoning. Uh, that's where you start. I know it sounds a bit obscure, but I don't take on clients that I don't have a really good chance of helping.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, we've just seen so much clear up. I mean, you would just wouldn't, within 3 days, 3 weeks, you're going in the right direction. The first step, now that we got through that, if I say, okay, I've decided to take you on as a client, if we can come to terms. And that's when I tell them what the fees are. There's my fees and there's laboratory fees. And most of it's cash. People in England, they tend to use their HSA for when they have to.
Yeah.
But for what they need to do to really get healthy, I haven't seen a lot get covered by HSA. I know that they do have programs and communities and groups, and you can share, and it's very lovely. But mostly, if you're going to get drugs and surgery, and that's not what we're about. We are completely 100% drug free.
Yeah.
None of us wants to put a scalpel to you, even if we knew how.
Right.
So it's a very much just taking that responsibility that you mentioned earlier, Simon. I mean, you were so dead on. And so we get them to commit to take responsibility. Then we do this 3-step process, very easy. Run the labs, design the protocol, and then run that program, do the protocol. And we'll coach them up. We'll work with them for a time period. That's how we set our fees. Usually it's a fee for service for, let's say, a minimum of 90 days. We're going to work together.
Perfect.
Does that answer your question, sort of?
Oh yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, and it's just, I just think the way that you shared that the conversation would go with a new client coming into you, just that beginning process, that therapeutic alliance that you're building up there, that trust, that rapport. I think just by asking those questions and allowing people to individually reflect on what's going on for them, where they want to be, and having those goals set, and also discussing any of those factors that they believe might get in the way, those hurdles, and then working with them to get around those. Like, that couldn't be any different than a 6-minute conversation with a GP, where you don't really you don't really have the time, you don't really have the space to be able to have that type of a dialogue, to even formulate trust with that individual, to literally put your life in their hands. But when you're talking about that type of approach, where you're asking those types of key questions, allowing those individuals to feel safe, to feel vulnerable, and then to be able to be taken care of, and then I'm sure 9 out of 10 people are more than happy to pay the fees for the consultations and the laboratory testing, etc. So I think that just that approach is so unique and different to what people are used to when it comes to their own health, and actually even just being asked questions about them, how they are, and what these symptoms mean. What will it mean when they're gone? Like, that's the really big beginning pieces of allowing people to think and believe that they could actually be this individual that they are, pain-free and feeling great.
Yes, and pain-free and joyful, to some degree anyway. Thankful, and also now more, they have more authority over their own body now, and you want that.
Yeah.
You want them to take that they take that on as a challenge, and then because then they can go live right.
Yeah.
Teach someone else is what I was. That's why I love teaching, because I teach it in a way that they could explain it to their family or their customers if they're in the same business. And the FDN course is designed to teach practitioners how to run the labs, interpret the labs, design the protocols, DRESS, all of it, and then work with a person for a period of time to have them run the program. You design a program for a person.
Yeah.
They have to run the program. So it's everything from the initial through all the labs, total understanding of that, and the protocols. How do you figure out the right diet, sleep patterns and things, or just coach people up on rest and stress reduction of every kind. We're also identifying some of the stressors with the labs, food sensitivities, and some of the bugs, parasites, bacteria, funguses, and we see all that. And of course, supplements is a huge topic, and So the course will teach you everything you need to know to be in practice, whether you have your own business as a health counselor. We call them FDN practitioners. We do have a very strong alumni, by the way, but also people take the course just for their own sake. And if you took say you have fibromyalgia or something you've been told, and you just want, hey, I want to take responsibility. I want to learn everything I can about my body. The people have taken the course just for that, and that was worth the price of admission.
Mm-hmm.
Just that. Hey, I just worked on myself, and it was amazing because you run all the labs that we run on yourself as you're going through the program. Every lab that I recommend, and it's all included in your tuition, and all the mentorship that you get. I think it's 11 or 12 sessions with my mentors. Some have been with me for 10 years and more. Like, they know their stuff. And I do the teaching for most of it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what I really love, and I think is so important for individuals within a family, within a community, is we need to have those educated piece that those elders that we would have had in, when we were living in much smaller communities. We would have those elders or the medicine individuals that we would go to obtain guidance, and we don't really have those roles in our communities anymore. So I think, if you've got young kids and you're concerned about your health and their health as you grow old, and you want to lead by example, you want to learn these things to be able to pass these things down to your kids and then to grandkids, etc. I think that taking courses like this and educating yourself would be a vital role for the longevity of your let's just say your small mini communities, and how that can, without question, affect the other people around you, because other families will recognize it, they'll see it, other kids will see it, etc. And I think that this is the type of
Yeah, thank you. You're right.
educational piece that's hugely important.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to because you mentioned kids there for a second. Kids are so much fun to work with because they pretty much are doing what they're told if they have a good parent,
Yeah,
and um, they respond so quickly because children are very anabolic. They're just dominated by, they're growing, so they're very, it's an anabolic. There's catabolic, breaking down, and anabolic. We measure those hormones, and we know what states them. Hey, you're in a catabolic state. You're aging too quickly. Your body's breaking down, and it happens at such a fine metabolic level. That's why I say sometimes you can't determine the root cause,
mm-hmm.
but you can still have an effect upon it. But when you use such a holistic program, and kids, I had a mom coming in the office, and she was doing quite well and happy, and said, "Hey, Reed, do you work with kids?" Well, I raised 4 kids, and I was a football coach for 15 years. So I love kids, working with kids. Why? She says, because they're trying to send my kid home from school. They said that they're going to send him home if I don't put him on this Ritalin drug. And I said to her, thought I was being funny. I said, well, do you think he has a Ritalin deficiency? And she didn't laugh. She said, no, I'm serious. I don't want my son on drugs. And they're saying either you put him on that or we're going to send him home. And I said, well, was this a doctor at the school? No, it was the teacher and a principal decided this was an ADD kid. They're diagnosing and prescribing medication. Crazy. From the school office, and I thought that was weird. But I said, I don't know if I could help him or not. Why don't we run some tests? That's what I do, as she was aware. Ran some tests, and I'm telling you, this is a thing of beauty, and it puts that little extra feeling in your heart when you do this kind of good work. It's very rewarding. 3 weeks after we got the lab results and changed some things in the young man's life. By the way, he was only 9. So here was a teacher and principal of a school prescribing a class 2 narcotic. That's the same classification as cocaine.
Yep.
Class 2 narcotic to a 9-year-old. And that's never been a good idea to me. But anyway, I got a call from the principal of the school after about 3 weeks of quote unquote therapy. And I was happy to get the call. He tracked me down through the mom, and he said, "This is a different kid. He's paying attention. He's not poking the other kids. No more, inappropriate outbursts. And his grades are right up there with everyone else at the top of the class, and on and on." And then he really disappointed me. He let all the wind came out of the sail, and he said, "What'd you put him on?" And I just kind of, this was on the phone. There was no Zoom or internet back then.
Sure.
There was internet, but we didn't use it like we do today. And so I was just disappointed. I said, "Well, sir, there's no magic pill. We put him on a better diet, a better exercise regimen, a better bedtime, and on and on. We put him onto some good, healthy habits." Dictated by he's only 9. But we turned his life around.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Probably forever. And
for sure, forever.
I have stories like that. Kids that played football for me, the moms would come up and say things, and hey, stop by the office. We'll give you some test kits. Get your kids tested. It's a real pleasure to work with the whole family. Actually.
Yeah, that's really cool. That reminds me of a story of the kind of the foundings of Truehope Canada here, when the founder of our company, Anthony Stephan, he was widowed to 9 children, and two of those kids were exhibiting symptoms of bipolar disorder, and their mother, who had committed suicide with bipolar disorder, and she was given a prescription for Prozac, and I think it was 3 weeks after that she committed suicide. Anyway, just to kind of mirror what you're saying, after a big call to prayer and an epiphany moment, Anthony found micronutrients, and he found a supplemental formula. After trying and trying and trying, found kind of like the right key, the right formula to give his son. And his son Joseph was, I think he described himself as like the next school shooter waiting to happen. And then he got on this right supplement regime, and very, very quickly, people were calling the house, teachers were calling the house, people just within the community were asking, like, what's happened to Joe? Because after taking this formula and getting the right nutrition into his body and brain, he was a completely different child. And we're doing a mass disservice to our children when we have just got when so many people are just so short-sighted and miseducated and just, I don't know, clueless, when they think that, giving Ritalin to a 9-year-old is some sort of solution. Like it's happening every single day. Like that type of conversation is happening, and just because it's a drug that can be prescribed by a doctor, like does that make it okay? Like I don't know what we're doing here.
It will get you the behavior you want. And see, that was their only concern. And often in those cases, that is the concern. It's just the behavior. They wanted the kid to stop jumping out of his chair and poking the other kids and being sort of a troublemaker.
Annoying the
behavior.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter how they got it. The shortest route to that, drug him.
Yeah.
Thank goodness the mother had more brains than that,
Yeah, well, she obviously knew that's not what she wanted for her son. She knew that wasn't, those behaviors weren't truly who that boy was. So something was like off, and she obviously was smart enough to recognize that a drug was not the solution, that there are many other pieces to it. But that's awesome. We've kind of come to our time here, Reed. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Can you just let people know where they can connect with you, please?
I'm not sure if we have a special place. They can always look at our website. Did they give you, did my office give you a unique URL?
Yeah, so I've got one here. So it's functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com, and I'll put that in the show notes so people can just click the link.
Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, you could go to FDN Training and these places, it'll give you all the same website where you can snoop around all you want. There's lots of good stuff on there.
Yeah, there is.
And yeah, there's some free things and lots of stuff. So yeah, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. That's the name I gave the system I had developed when I started teaching. I hadn't named it. It wasn't on our window at the office. It was just when I taught my first class. I'll just tell you quickly, Simon. I was happy in the office. I only developed the methodology for our patients and clients, not to be worldwide and all that stuff. And then one day, one of the lab directors of one of the lab companies, the laboratory that I use for testing, he called me and he goes, "Who the hell are you?" Just like that. I said, "I'm Reed." He's like, "Well, no, I mean," he goes, "You run more labs than any 5 doctors we know. How are you doing that?" I said, and I honestly didn't have an answer. I said, "I don't know. I just do it. I go out and I lecture. I do health screen." I was, very assertive self-promoter. And for our office, he goes, "Whatever you're doing," he goes, "you should be teaching. You should be teaching it to other practitioners. Think of all the good you'd be doing in the world. I mean, how many clients do you see a year? 1,000? Okay, so what if you taught 1,000 practitioners? And how many people would be?" And that's what I put a class together and I called it FDN, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. I couldn't think of anything else at the time.
Okay.
And now I'm stuck with it. And so, yeah, I've been doing that since 2008. At first class. Now I don't practice at all. I don't have an office. I work out of my home and just teach online. It's a beautiful thing. So anybody's welcome to go poke around there and talk to one of our counselors if you think it's something you might want to do. There's also a drop-down list of practitioners. I'm pretty sure some people listed in the United Kingdom there. I know we have Australia, New Zealand, a lot of Canadians, mostly Americans, but it's all good. We're here to serve. And thank you very much, Simon.
Beautiful. And yeah, I did get a link, fdntraining.com/truehope, which I will also put in the show notes. And this is they give people free access to one of your most popular webinars called the Step-by-Step System to Overcome Unwanted Health Issues, which they can access at that link. So I'll make sure that's shared with people, Reed. But again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time today and your insights.
Pleasure to know you, Simon, and your group. It sound like wonderful people, and keep up your great work.
Appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you. Well, that is it for this episode of Truehope Cast, the official podcast for Truehope Canada. Make sure you check out the links in the show notes to get to Reed's website and also to that webinar that he's made available free for Truehope listeners. So we appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, but that is it for this week. We will see you soon.